Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Checkered Roots podcast. We have another episode coming at you. As you can tell, things are a little bit different. It has been a little bit of a, lack of a better term, shit show of a week. We're in a different space. As you can see, I have my son's Lightning McQueen bed sheet hung up behind me, so you don't have to stare at my concrete sub-basement. But, I kind of figured who doesn't like Lightning McQueen. So here we go. We're going to roll with it. And then past that, my laptop broke, so I had to piece together another little setup here. So we're just kind of rolling with the punches. But, I think that that's what we all do around here is we kind of thrive on the chaos and we just figure out a way to make it work. So without further ado, we have Mr. Xavier Allen tonight, and we are going to get into a good conversation. He's a street stock racer, and I think that everybody will enjoy his story. So without further ado, Xavier, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Like I said, just kind of rolling with the punches this weekend. Got a lot of company in town, so my usual little podcast studio is currently occupied. So kind of just rolling with the punches. Like I said, I think everybody kind of does that, though.
I'll say that pretty much sums up how my weekend went.
Yeah.
It started off Saturday. Started off freaking. The car was on a rail. It was looking to be a pretty good weekend. Qualified third fast, and during the fast heat, ended up getting shoved off the backstretch and went for a little ride and went off turn four, which the track I run is the Angola Motor Speedway, and the way their corners are set up, it's like a bowl shape, and there's nothing on the outside of the track. It's just like straight up and then flat. So we ended up ripping the whole rear end out of the car almost. It got the upper trailing arm brackets ripped completely out of the frame. So that's how my Saturday went.
Damn, dude, that makes for a long week trying to get it back together to go for next weekend, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna be a long one. We spent most of the day up here today in the garage trying to figure out, game plan for the week, and I think we have somewhat of a plan going on, trying to figure out how to fix it and get it done right so it does not happen again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, cool. Well, let's kind of get into it. Kind of started getting into it a little bit there, but why don't you tell us, a little bit about you, what you race? I know I said street stocks, but you can kind of go into a little bit more there. What you do for work, and where you're located at.
All right, so I'm Xavier Allen. I live up in northeastern Indiana. I'm 19 years old and I run a street stock. It's on asphalt, and what it is I mean, like a full frame G body car kind of. We're allowed to run Camaro clips. It's a 4 link car. That's pretty much sums it up about how the rules are. And for work, I work in an automotive shop. It's called Ozzy and J's. They're actually one of my biggest sponsors this year, so I'm thankful for them. And then I have also another part-time job at Advanced Auto Parts.
There you go. Yeah, burning the candle at both ends, I'm guessing then, huh?
Yeah, I mean it's I use them quite a bit for parts. So, that discount really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Goes back to like you got to do whatever you got to do to make ends meet, right? Well, wonderful, dude. Well, let's go kind of back to the beginning a little bit. What made you choose to get into racing? Like, why did you want to get into this sport, or what's kept you around it?
So, I mean, I think it speaks for a lot of short track people. I grew up around it, grew up in it, and so it actually started off with my grandpa. Back when he was in his 20s, 30s, he used to run motocross, and finally my grandma got fed up with it and said it's either me or the motocross, and they kind of they met in the middle at short track. So that's how that started. Then ever since I was knee high, every weekend I was at the racetrack trying to help out, trying to do something. And then I think it was 2015 or 2016, I got to climb down in my first actual race car. It was a stock front wheel drive. I run up, I run a couple. They're like blowout races, end of the year, 3 day shows. Did a couple of those for 2 years, and then after that, it was my first full year in a front wheel drive. And after that, it was just yeah, screw everything else. I played baseball, football growing up, and after I finally got to drive a race car and experience it, it was like, yeah, no, those can just disappear. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Perfect. So grandpa got into it. Does your grandpa, does your dad, do they still kind of help out around the track? Or are they kind of a little bit more removed from it at this point? Or kind of who do you kind of run around with, as your little pit crew and everything now?
So I mean, my grandpa, he's still kicking it, and he's still running street stocks. My dad, he kind of, I mean, him and I are still, we're still really close, still great friends. I love him to death, but he kind of stepped back away from me for a year or so, because my older sister actually got her first race car last year. I think it was last year she got her first race car. So it was kind of like, okay, I know what I'm doing enough that, hey, you go help her, get her to where she needs to be. And I ended up, there was a gentleman that was helping my grandpa. His name is Mike Murphy. And last year I called him up and said, hey, I know that you're really good at what you do. I I've seen what you've done with grandpa. Is there any way you would be willing to help me? And he took me under his arm, and I mean, we haven't looked back. We've had 2 great years together. Last year it was last year was a lot of hard luck thrown at us trying to figure out the car, kept breaking stuff. This year, we kind of had a late start to the season, because we over the winter we kind of, I don't know, we sat down, had a game plan of what we needed to do to the car to get it faster, to get it, just to get it more competitive. So we sat down, and it was a long, long winter, and we ended up getting it done. I want to say about 4 weeks ago, and we were ready to take it to the track, and it rained out. So it was kind of like, oh, what the, come on. So yeah, Mike Murphy, he he's really, really good at what he does. I think in this area, he's probably the best out of everybody. So on, I am extremely grateful that I have him on my side helping me. So, yep.
It seems like pretty much everybody that I've talked to, and probably anybody who listens, everybody seems to have that one person that kind of took them under their wing, right? And I think that's what's also really cool about the motorsports community. It seems to not matter what kind of motorsport we're talking about. There's always that one person that everybody says, "Man, without this person, I couldn't have done it." And I'm fortunate enough with, kind of what I've been doing and how this has all been kind of progressing, that there's a lot of people now in my corner. So I'm super fortunate for that. And I hope that everybody has that. And it sounds like you do with Mr. Mike Murphy. You have somebody in with your grandfather who's been around it for years and years, to where it's not like you're getting thrown to the wolves, and you kind of have somebody to ask questions and to bounce stuff off of. And I'm sure, if it's kind of short track racing and, the local community, I'm sure it's kind of the same, where anybody around the track is willing to help out and pitch in and kind of give their 2 cents if you're asking for it. Or maybe I could be mistaken if it's not like that down around you.
Well, it all depends what tracks you go to. There's some around here where you'll want to go ask a question, and they'll steer you wrong, because I mean, they don't. We call it playing with the big boys up in northeastern Indiana. There's a few tracks that if you take a nice shiny car and you take it there, you're gonna bring it home, and it's not gonna look pretty anymore. And last year, that's essentially how it was. We took car, got it back, and it's like, oh, what the heck. So this year we kind of switched, moved up to a different track, and it's like, this is going a lot better. I mean, I used to run a quarter-mile track, and I mean, we had a lot of fun. We were pretty fast over there. But this year we were like, well, there's a track that's 15 minutes from our house. Let's go run up there. It's 3/8 mile, and we were a little nervous that I would be getting out motored down the backstretch. But Mike Murphy, he's one hell of a motor builder. He motor in the car, all it is a little 352, but I don't know what his special touch is, but it's pulling a lot of big motors. And whenever I say that to people, they're like, "Ain't no way. There's no way that's possible." And it's like, I wouldn't lie to you about that. You wanna come to the garage? We'll pull ahead, and I'll show you. It
Right.
ain't nothing to write home about. That that we call it the little engine that could. And it's got plenty of power.
Hell
So,
yeah,
but I
man.
mean, no, my dad and grandpa, when I was younger, they were showing me stuff, showing me this, showing me that. But it was one of those things where it's like, listen, like, you need to put all your time towards my older sister. Her name's Summer. You need to put all your time towards her, help her, get her on the right direction. I'll be okay. And I mean, after Murphy helped me last year, it was one of those things where it's like, we might be able to take this into a little bit bigger levels.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. Let's keep that rolling. What are kind of your future plans? Racing, life in general, anything like that. But what does the future look like for Mr. Xavier Allen?
Well, I mean, future's pretty simple. I just whatever I can do to make ends meet and keep racing. But for the racing side, now I'm looking at some modifieds for next year that I want to, try to jump into to see if I like that better. And then after that, I'm not sure. I mean, if I run good in the modified and I like it, maybe try to super late or something. But only issue with those is that the price jump from street stock to a modified, it's not huge, but from like a modified to a super late, you're looking at freaking, it's more than a little hop jumping away, a giant price increase. So it's one of those where as long as I'm racing and as long as I'm able to compete in whatever class I'm in, I'll be happy.
Absolutely, dude. Can you imagine the talent that would come out of the woodworks if racing wasn't so expensive? Because I feel like that's everybody's holdback is, yeah, I would love to do this, but I don't have the $300,000 that it takes to run this car for a season, and I don't have the big name sponsors. So if racing wasn't so expensive in some alternate universe, I mean, dude, can you imagine the amount of talent that would come out of the woodworks and how big this sport would get and how fast it would grow? It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, I mean that's like there's a couple drivers around this local area, and it's like if you would give that kid a little bit more money, I guarantee you that he could go somewhere. And I know there's a group of family around here that they're starting to make a pretty big name for themselves. They're going to all these big late model races, and they're sweeping them. I mean, they went up to a Wasso last night. I think it was last night, and they had like a Wasso CRA short track something, and the whole there's a two brothers and a father, and they swept the whole show. I mean, a brother won it, and then it was like second and fourth for the other two. So it's one of those things where it's like if you could give them a little bit more pocket change, they'll be up there in the ranks.
No, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So your sister, to kind of jump back to that, what is she driving now? I'm sorry if you already touched on it, but what is she doing? Because you said that you wanted your dad and grandpa to help her out a little bit more, but what is she running now?
She's back in a stock front wheel drive, which I
Okay.
mean, the car she's got, it's capable of winning. She's got to learn to drive it in hard and hope it sticks. I mean, around here, that's about all you can do.
Sure. So it sounds so. Have you ever gone dirt racing or anything like that, or is asphalt real big up in Indiana? Because ideally, I'd love to run asphalt, but we don't have any asphalt around where I'm at. So I'm kind of going more to the dirt route. But have you ever tried dirt or ever had any interest in dirt or anything?
Actually, yeah. So last year, I had a good friend who he had a it was just stock front wheel drive, and he called me up. He's like, "Hey, you want to? I know you're doing pretty good on asphalt. What do you say about giving dirt a try?" Like, no, yeah, let's do it. So we went out for like a last, race of the year hoorah, and it was fun, but it was one of those things where it's like, well, I don't know how I feel about this. And then early this year, he called me again. Hey, you want to run dirt car again? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, we had fun last time. Let's go do it. But I mean, northeastern Indiana, it's almost like a 50-50 mix between asphalt and dirt. More Indiana's a little bit more asphalt, but I mean, you got Butler Motor Speedway up in Michigan, that's dirt, and there's a couple of Oak Shade, that's also dirt track. But the further you get up in northern Michigan, the more asphalt tracks you get, and the more south you get from Indiana, the more dirt tracks you get. So it's kind of right where I'm at is pretty, I can go either way and find a dirt or asphalt track, but I plan on sticking more to the asphalt. I have more fun doing it.
Yeah, no, understandable. And everybody kind of has their niche when it comes to racing. Some guys are real passionate about the dirt side, and some guys are real passionate about the asphalt side. So, no, completely understandable. Just figured I'd pick your brain on that. Um, what is a piece of advice that you would give someone in my shoes who is looking to get into racing or is tipping over the edge and maybe going to jump in feet first, maybe not, but what is some advice that you would give someone who's just starting out?
So my biggest thing, honestly, is I get racing's expensive. It really is. Lean towards a cheaper class, but do not cheap out on safety gear. I mean, safety gear has saved my butt more than one time. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I get you're not up there competing, you're not running, 80 mile an hour down the backstretch. So if you wreck, it's not going to be a huge deal. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, why take the risk? But I mean, another thing is, just look around, look at people, find some people that you can trust that are willing to help you. And I mean, just I get you're not always going to be making friends in this sport, but try to make as many friends as you can because I've had them save my butt more times than
Oh, that's awesome. No, yeah, I've heard that a few times now, and I've had the same kind of sentiment going into it. Of there's a lot of things that I'll get cheap on. Like I am gonna go budget racing. I don't have deep pockets. I don't have a bunch of extra spending money, but safety is the one thing that I will not try to spare a penny on because you never know. Like you don't ever want to be the guy to say, "Man, I wish I'd have spent the money on that," because you might not have the opportunity if you didn't. If you don't have the proper safety gear and you wad it up pretty bad, you might not get the opportunity to say, "Man, I wish I'd have had that." So, yeah, to anybody listening, I would echo that loudly: is do not skimp out on safety.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, like the biggest thing is you want a good neck brace and a really good helmet. I mean, this year I had to break the bank and I ended up having to get a new helmet. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that one hurt the old pocketbook, but it's down the line here. It's I'm sure it'll come in handy and it'll do its job. Other than like if you go on Facebook Marketplace and you find one of them $75 40-year-old helmets, and it's like, yeah, it's cheap, but why just yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to crack the yolk inside the old egg on top of your head there. So, what's one of the craziest things you've seen at the racetrack? One of the best stories you got? One of the you would not believe this shit, or dude, you would you would not believe what happened. Or give me your favorite story from a racetrack, man. One that you hold near and dear to your heart. Give me a good Xavier Allen story.
Oh, I think if we're going that way, it was I don't know, it was like I think it was my second or third 4 year racing, and it was so we ended up we qualified okay. It was in the stock front wheel drive class. Ended up qualifying okay and worked our way up to the lead in the feature and running door to door with someone. I was on the outside and just trying to throw that Hail Mary that it did not hold coming out of turn four. Freaking ended up smacking the wall. My right side got up on the wall and just rode it down the front stretch, popped off the wall and come back and actually ended up winning the race. It's the post race interview is it's one of those things where it's freaking hilarious because he comes up and he's, well, Mr. Allen, what do you think about that? And all only words I could utter was, I think something's broke. But that's probably one of my better ones. But crazy story is I'd probably have to go with my grandpa. He's known to be a little bit of a hothead, and there was one time someone was lipping off to my mom. He come unglued. Just I don't know. I'm wanting to say a week and a half after he had back surgery. He was at the racetrack, and someone said something to my mom, and here he comes. And he grabbed a hold of a jack, trying to rip the handle out. He's dragging this like I don't know, 20-pound jack through the pits. It's well, it was like, dude, you're almost 70. You gotta calm down.
Yeah,
But
Grandpa was
I've
going to whip some ass, huh?
yeah, and I mean I'm glad I got Mike on my side now because I'm trying to calm it down, trying to be more presentable, trying to be more professional in racing. And I mean those stories are great and all, but it's one of those things where it's like if you look at it from an outside perspective, it's like what? Come on, dude, what? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, that's those are my questions. What I like to do kind of at the end of these things here, and we can talk about whatever you want for as long as you want. But if there's any big topics you want to hit on, any parts of your journey or your story that you want to touch on or that we didn't get to or anything like that, man, yeah, I'll kind of open it up to you, and the floor is yours on that.
I the biggest thing is I want to go through and thank my sponsors for this year. I don't have that many, but the ones I got they've treated me really really well. The number one is Mike Murphy. He MJ Motorworks or I'm sorry, MJ Race Engines. I mean, he's like I know I've already said it before, but he's he's a freaking genius at what he does. That's my number one big one. And then Ozzy and Jay Automotive Repair. That's another big one. That's actually where I work. And Chris Osborne, actually, that's who owns it, who runs it. He's been really good to me, so since I've been there. And then Affordable Pontoon Hauling, that is owned by Ray Henderson. He owns that, and he's been pretty good to us this year. And then Fugate Automotive, that's another one. That's another big sponsor. He's been more than fair to me. So those are my sponsors for this year. Don't have that many, but they've all helped me out quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's more meaningful, I think, than having a few that are quality than having more quantity than quality. I think that that's a big thing. So it sounds like you're close with your sponsors. Your sponsors are standing behind you with 10 fingers and 10 toes. So man, that's awesome. I'm happy for you to hear that. Where can people find you on any social medias or any merchandise or anything like that? Do you have any social media stuff you want to talk about or any merchandise stuff?
We're trying to work on shirts and stuff like that, but you can. I think the only social media page I have is on Facebook, and all it is Xavier Allen Racing. But we're trying to work on getting some merch out, get some shirts and sweatshirts. But I want them to be right, want them to be good. Don't want them to be that cheap material that you wash it one time and it's falling apart.
Beautiful. And then people can find you racing at Angola Speedway, correct?
Yeah, it's Angola Motor Speedway. It's in Angola, Indiana. Just I don't know. You drive 15 minutes east, you'll run into Ohio. You drive 15 minutes north, you'll run into Michigan. So we're tucked way up here in Northeast.
Wonderful, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming out, man. I'll make sure all of Xavier's stuff will be linked down below with his Facebook, and then I'll make sure to include where he races and all that stuff. But Xavier, man, hey, I really, really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to sit here and talk with me. And this whole experience with talking to all you guys has been nothing but magical. So thank you for taking the time to sit down with me tonight, man.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to tell my story. It's one of those things where there was a point where it's like, well, if I do get big and people hear my story, that's cool. But if not, I'm okay with it. But you're giving people opportunity like me to be able to tell their side of the story, to be able to tell the struggles that they've had, all that stuff. So I appreciate it, really do.
No, man, absolutely. Well, thank you very much once again, and have a good rest of your night, man.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you.